It's been a really long time since I uploaded a video, and I thought it'd be kind of weird to jump right into doll content without, I guess, addressing why I left and explaining sort of what was going on behind the scenes, and also the changes that are going to be taking place on my channel moving forward for the time being. That could say a lot, and I have tried filming this video so many times. I debated over whether or not to even make this, but I feel like I have to get some things off my chest. I'm going to try to keep this as condensed as I can, so bear with me. Please know that there's a lot more to this story, a lot more that goes on behind the camera. So thank you if you reached out to me while I was gone. I got a lot of emails and messages and comments on Flickr months and months after I left, which really surprised me. I mean, I figured people would reach out to me right after I left, but not months and months later. And if I didn't get back to you, I'm really sorry. I tried my best, but there's been a lot that's happened this year in my personal life, and it just became really overwhelming responding to everybody. And I had a lot of people that I would be having back and forth conversations with, or people who would write me really, really long personal emails, and I promise you, whether or not I got back to you, I read every word that you wrote, and I deeply appreciate it. It's just physically impossible to kind of do it all. So sorry. I tried my best, and I'm going to try to do better, but I'm just really not good at the emailing thing. I think that the main reason I want to make this is there was a huge misconception about why I left. People thought I was bullied off of YouTube, and that wasn't it at all. I think that's a really black and white way to look at the situation, and that's really ultimately why I want to talk about this. What it's like to be on both sides of this YouTube situation, whether you're the person filming and the viewer watching, because I'm in both positions. I've watched YouTube for years. I don't watch doll content, but I watch a lot of other content, and I've been making videos since 2016. When people try to be hateful and nasty and bully me, that doesn't bother me. You know, it very rarely affects me on any level because it's just ridiculous, and I can easily ignore that, mute those people, and move on. And I don't think that just because somebody hurt my feelings or said something that made me uncomfortable, that was, number one, their intention, and number two, that makes them a bad person. People are very complex. We all have good and bad sides. There's nobody who is all good in this world, and there are very few people who are bad through and through. I think that we lose sight of that sometimes on the internet because we don't really know people all around. I know you just through comments, and you know me just through edited videos, and there's so much more to everybody. And I think that people forget sometimes that they don't know me or other people they watch on YouTube, and they cross these lines with what they say, and they might have good intentions, or they just might not be thinking. And so I'm not mad or angry or depicting anybody who left comments that affected me in like a negative light. I don't feel like that's fair, because I'm sure that there have been things that I've said in videos or times when I've responded to comments that maybe the lines got misinterpreted, and so I might have hurt somebody's feelings. I know for a fact that sometimes things got misinterpreted in comments, and that was never my intention, obviously, but I'm not perfect. I'm not absolved of this whole situation either. I feel like the more my channel grew and the more the tone and atmosphere of YouTube changed, I felt a lot more pressure and a lot more negative energy on my channel, and I really internalized that, and it was affecting the way I made videos and my, I guess, relationship with my viewers and with just creating content. And that's really why I decided to step away, because I didn't like who I was becoming, and I didn't like how it was affecting my experience as a doll collector, and also like my ability to have fun with my sister. There's a lot of things about making videos and just putting yourself out there that's difficult. There's, of course, the people who are looking to hurt your feelings, and then there's these ridiculously high expectations that people put on you. And sometimes it can be like silly stuff, like because I make videos, people expect me to keep up with all these new dolls and to film videos about whatever they want on the drop of a hat, and to have like these amazing high quality videos, because so many people do this as a living. And I don't. This is a hobby. I don't make any money off of YouTube. I don't think people realize that, so they don't understand that this is just a hobby for me, and so there's a lot of pressure sometimes to keep up with other people. And then of course there's a lot of nitpicking that goes on, and when you spend hours upon hours putting your heart and soul into something, and someone just wants to correct how you pronounce something or a misspelling, and it's not just one person, it's quite a few people, and it makes up maybe 25% of your comments, it can feel really disheartening. And it feels like no matter how many times you put disclaimers in or how carefully you try to word things, people always take stuff out of context, people always get offended, and I'm a very sensitive person, so I feel really empathetic towards people on the other side of the camera, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or make anybody uncomfortable, and I have a lot of anxiety, and my mind is always analyzing, in real life too, like what I need to say and how I need to say it and what could be taken wrong, and that already puts a lot of stress on me. And then when the climate of YouTube began to shift and you had to be more and more careful about what you said, even something as simple as saying, I hope you guys enjoyed this video offhandedly, could set somebody off into a huge rant. It wasn't fun feeling like I was being graded by a bunch of teachers all the time and being told that I wasn't doing enough, and especially the pressure to talk about things that weren't doll related. Like when COVID happened, people expected that I was going to make videos about it, when that's not what I wanted my channel to ever be about. My channel is an escape from reality because I have to deal with reality in my own life, and when I share things about my personal life, like losing my parents or things about my mental health, it's always to help other people in some way know that they're not alone, and maybe inspire them to not make the same mistakes I did. But other than that, I don't want to like talk about deep and heavy stuff. More than anything else, I feel like the way I can best describe this is it's like I've not committed this crime, but I'm being accused of committing this crime. And I have these police officers interrogating me every day, and no matter how many times they say I didn't do it, they keep saying, yes you did, yes you did, yes you did, and you feel like you're guilty even though you're not. And that's basically how comments can make you feel sometimes. And the main thing that I was getting comments about was my relationship with my sister. People would say things like I was talking over her, that I was making her upset, that she looked like she was gonna cry. People were hyper analyzing every body movement, every time we spoke over each other, putting it under this microscope and turning it into this narrative of something else. And I understand that a lot of people were just trying to defend Colleen, and that they were maybe projecting their own life experiences of bad relationships with siblings onto what they were seeing. But no matter how many times I would say, no, that's not how it is, Colleen's just uncomfortable on camera, in real life she talks a lot more and I'm the quiet one, but I'm more comfortable on camera, people wouldn't want to hear it. I started to feel like there was no way to defend myself, and the worst part is that I began to feel uncomfortable appearing on camera at all, but especially with Colleen, and that was really hard because I loved it when she decided to be part of this channel, and the fact that that kind of felt like it was taken away from me because I couldn't help that I was feeling anxiety. That was when I realized that there was no point in continuing if I was going to be miserable. And this had been going on for a few years, and there were so many videos that I scrapped, so many things that I cut out of videos. I just felt so uncomfortable in my own skin on camera with Colleen. I was putting on a happy face to make you guys happy, and I've done that my whole life. I've always hidden that I was depressed or that things were bothering me because you're kind of expected to be happy all the time and to put on a smile and to put on a show, and I was doing that here on YouTube a lot of the time when I love my dolls and I'm passionate about talking about dolls, but I wasn't comfortable anymore talking about them on camera and appearing in videos with Colleen, and that really bothered me. Especially because, like, yes, we both do talk over each other sometimes, but it's not that deep. And I feel like people forget sometimes that, like, if a camera followed you around all day, people could interpret every little move you make and inflate it into this big thing. And it would be like that same metaphor of being accused of committing a crime you didn't commit. And there were other things that I just felt really towed the line when people would say things about my weight. There was always this kind of insinuation that I was losing weight, which I wasn't, that it was intentional, which it wasn't, and like there was some sort of illness or eating disorder, which there wasn't. And I've gotten it my whole life in person. People just feel like they can say whatever they want about how I look. I understand that people might be doing it out of concern, but it isn't inappropriate, especially to say to somebody that you don't know in real life when their channel has nothing to do with like lifestyle or diet or my body. I'm always talking about dolls. I'm usually filming from here up. I'm usually wearing a lot of layers, and people just will believe whatever they project, whatever their perception is. They believe that it's the truth, and it's not. And I can promise you I did not lose weight at any point, and it just made me really uncomfortable because I had a lot of things said about me in school especially, and it just brings back a lot of bad memories, and I've had a lot of my own issues with how I see myself, and just to feel like that's even something I have to worry about when I'm talking about dolls was uncomfortable. And the last major thing that bothered me was people talking about my parents, saying that things along the lines of that I clearly had a better relationship with my dad, that I loved my dad more because I talked about him more, because he had more to do with my doll hobby. Without getting emotional here, the most traumatizing, damaging thing that ever happened to me in this life was losing my mom when I was 11. There's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes that's not for the internet to know about. And there were reasons that my dad bought me a lot of dolls, and the reality is that there's so much about those relationships that you don't know, and to equate somebody's whole relationship with two people that aren't alive anymore to give their own input is inappropriate. And I don't even know why people would say it, because there's no good intention there. People just felt like they could say that, and they would be regular viewers too. I'm not just some troll coming along, and that really bothered me because I felt like I had to suppress a lot of what I went through with my mom when I was younger because it made other people uncomfortable. And part of why I'm very open about talking about my parents is because I was shamed for grieving and for, wanting to talk about my mom, and I never really got to process that in the appropriate way, and so it really impacted me negatively, and I don't want anyone else to feel like that. And just because I talk about my parents and I reminisce about them through my dolls, it doesn't mean that I'm still grieving them, because I'm not. I talk about that experience a lot because it changed my life. It made me a worse person and then a better person, and my dolls really helped me kind of get through those dark times, and it's something I've dealt with and I'm not grieving. I don't talk about stuff I'm currently dealing with on my channel because I only want to share things if I feel it can help other people, and that's it. There's been plenty of other things that have happened in my life that have affected me on a close to just as bad level that I just haven't talked about because it's not stuff I want to put out on the internet. And same with Colleen, there's always a lot more going on behind the scenes, and it just really, maybe it sounds silly to some people, but like, my mom was a huge part of my life. She is a relationship that I'll never have another person like that in my life again. She was the person I went to with my problems. She knew me better than I knew me. And when people say things like, basically my dad was a better person and that I loved him more because he bought me more dolls, it's just really superficial and silly. And I know it shouldn't bother me, but nobody wants to read that. And nobody wants to hear like other people's analysis of their mental health or the way they grieved things, because it's also really not appropriate. I think the internet sometimes forgets that they're not a psychiatrist or a therapist or a body language expert or detective. People forget that, and they love to diagnose and dissect and analyze, and it creates this really tense atmosphere on this side of the camera because you know that everything is looked at from a microscope, from a magnifying glass, and it got worse as time went on. It wasn't like that when I started my channel in 2016. I expected people to say I was weird for liking dolls. I expected people to say stuff about how I dress or how I color my hair, or say that I'm annoying. I expected that stuff, but I didn't expect it to go to like that weird cross the line, make me uncomfortable place, and that's ultimately why I decided to take a step back and reflect on whether or not I wanted to keep doing this. I guess that leads me to what's going to be different on my channel. I do have comments disabled on all my videos for now, and that will stay that way for a while. They may come back on one day, they may not. I don't really know. I don't have time anymore to respond to everybody. I spent hours replying to every comment because I cared, because it meant a lot that people would take the time out of their day. But I also have to protect my energy, and I do have a lot of anxiety that I'm good at hiding, and I was having physical symptoms from the anxiety of YouTube. It was affecting my Raynaud's disease. I get really bad flare-ups when I'm stressed out, and it would make my stomach go all kinds of crazy. I would get heart palpitations, I would shake, I would feel dizzy, my ears would ring, because I was so afraid of like what people were gonna say, and if I read one of those comments that touched a nerve, it affected me physically. And I worked really, really hard on getting my mental health into a place that was good, and I just don't want something like the internet to tear that progress down. And maybe people that watch my videos don't see that, but I worked really hard to overcome a lot. You know, I was in a really, really dark place 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, in 2018, and I was in a lot darker place than I really want to admit, and I had to kind of start all over from scratch and build my way up. And I've learned a lot. I've taught myself a lot of coping mechanisms and things, and I'm just a no bullshit kind of person. If something turns toxic, even if I once loved it, even if it was a relationship I once really cared about, if something becomes toxic, you have to sometimes let it go or put a boundary down. And putting a boundary down and, you know, quitting something, it's not a failure, it's not a weakness. And some people who reached out to me did say things along those lines, like I was quitting, I was letting people win, and I feel like that's kind of a weird way of looking at it, because in my circumstance at least, it took a lot for me to admit that this wasn't good for me. And Colin had been telling me for a really long time to turn off the comments or to take a break, and any mental health professional would also give you that advice, because social media is an extra, it's not a necessary thing. And there's plenty of real life stress and real life drama that we all have to deal with, and I didn't want to keep subjecting myself to that. But I still love my dolls. I've obviously been collecting them and doing things with them this whole time, and they're my therapy. And that was something else that kind of would get to me at points is, one specific example I can give, and bear in mind there's a lot of times things like this happened, is when I got my Melody doll. I had been very broke for like a year before, and then I hadn't been able to buy a lot of things that I would have loved to have. And, you know, there was a lot of tears about money every day for a time, and I finally was at a place, Colleen and I worked hard to fix our situation, and I got my Melody doll as a birthday gift to myself, and I was really excited to open her. I even went through the trouble of filming the video, even though I just wanted to open her off camera, because it's kind of annoying sometimes to have to set up the camera and worry about the lighting and come up with things to say. But somebody made this comment about how I was talking over Colleen and how I looked like I made her cry and all of this, and it really took away from that experience of opening Melody. And I worked really hard to get Melody, and that was a really special thing because I had wanted her since she came out, but I had kind of been on the fence about getting her. And when I looked at Melody for a really long time, all I could think about was that comment. And that's not for me what doll collecting is about. For me, doll collecting is about the good memories, the good times, the distraction, because I deal with a lot of mental health issues, and sometimes you just need that little dose of fantasy therapy to get you through the day. And when it starts affecting like my escape, I just felt like it wasn't really healthy anymore to continue on the road I was with YouTube. And no matter how many times I tried not to appear in videos and I tried to explain myself or justify myself, I was still getting those comments, and I just couldn't pretend anymore. It had been a long time coming. I had been feeling that way, like that high level of anxiety, since like 2019. And I don't want to have that relationship with YouTube anymore. But I know that a lot of you look forward to my videos, and there still are plenty of creative things that I want to do and express on this platform. So I do have a bunch of videos that I did film while I was gone. Not for the first 6 months. They're all from like June onward for the most part. Most are things like transformation videos that are time sensitive that I can't recreate. I'm going to be really awkward in those videos because I'm not comfortable still talking to the camera. Yeah, I'm not going to be sharing as much in terms of just general doll things even. I'm just going to share when I feel inspired. I feel like I don't want to be filming everything I get or every project I work on. I just feel like inviting people too much into even something as innocent as a doll hobby, it can just create these weird boundaries, and maybe that's part of what contributed to the kinds of comments that were being left. I don't know, but I feel better about maybe having a buffer, and that doesn't mean I won't share sentimental things about my dolls. I'm still gonna be me. I'm still gonna harp on too much about my dolls. I don't know how many face-to-face videos I'm gonna do for a while. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. I'm sorry if I rambled. And stay tuned for the future videos, exciting new things that will be on my channel. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.